Welcome to Guns, Guns, Gear, and Guns with Gary Gunderson. I am Gary Gunderson. Today we have a book review, Small Arms of World War II, Soviet Union. This is from Headstamp Publishing, notably founded partially by Ian McCollum of Forgotten Weapons. This is the second volume in a set that they're doing of the major powers of the Second World War. The first was the United States. I have more of an interest in Soviet firearms in general, so I waited till this volume to decide if I would maybe go back and get the US and get subsequent volumes or not. The quality of the book is unassailable. Headstamp Publishing always does a good job. It's very high quality in its binding, thick paper. The photos are absolutely wonderful. And it sits in an odd category because this is a $100 plus book once you get shipping and everything involved, which is enough for most legitimate reference books, at least ones that are still in print on firearms. And this is kind of a mix between a reference book and a coffee table book. It doesn't go in depth enough to be called a reference book at all. It has good information. It has some variants, some prototypes. It gets into a fair amount of detail, and like I said, the photos are great, but it's not a reference book, and it acknowledges that in the text itself at a few locations, especially when you get into like sniper rifles and things like that. But, $100 for a coffee table book would be a lot, and it's above that, it's elevated above that, but it puts us in this weird position because the other one that I would think is like this is the Chinese handguns book that they did prior, but that is something that was pretty much information never collected before anywhere, you couldn't find. This is all information that's fairly well out there, even though there's some stuff I maybe didn't know ahead of time. A lot of this I knew. But, taking a look, it's divided up how you'd think: pistols, bolt actions, semi-auto rifles, etc. And there's good information, there's good photos, there's good stuff. It is a very niche audience, more so than the other ones in a sense, because a reference book is a reference book. Obviously, you can utilize it, collectors utilize it. The kind of collectors that would buy a $100 book like this, I don't know if they would want it necessarily. It's very well done. It's very nice. It's a little convoluted. I don't think this one is as well executed as, say, the French Chassepot to FAMAS book. There's a few things, especially when you get into like the SVT, it talks about features, and then but kind of skips around because it talks about the 38, it talks about the 40, it talks about the sniper, and there's things in each section that if you didn't know better, you may think, oh, this is just for the snipers, because they'll talk about the brake changing, but it makes it seem like it's not on SVT 40s at all, and things like that, and it's just a little odd. I don't know what to think of it on that case. It feels like it needed maybe one more pass through, a little bit of reorganization, because there's some things that make sense with the knowledge I have, and I completely understand also because I have a rifle here that I can look at and I know. But if you aren't that familiar with it, I think it's easier to get a wrong impression on a few points in this book. And it's hard to go back and forth and try to tell kind of the overall story, because it does go through the evolution of pistols, bolt-action rifles, self-loading rifles, and it does have a separate section on snipers. That's where a little bit of it kind of breaks down, because it highlights certain parts on the sniper rifles that have nothing to do with snipers, when on the SVT-40, for example, it's just, as far as we can tell, the mount and scope are on it. So it can be a little confusing for some people there, I think. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just... The content is good. The information is solid. There's just a few things I feel like they could have done a little bit better. And I've read Chassepot to FAMAS, Chinese Warlords Handgun, Clockwork Basilisk. So I'm familiar with their work, and I still think it's a good, solid book. It's very high quality, as the ribbon. Has nice photographs throughout. And it's just one of those things where I'm not sure who would get it besides people who are just, you know, I guess people like me. I guess I bought it. I'm not unhappy with it at all. It is pricey for what you get though. $100+, and I mean, there's definitely some good stuff in here. There's a lot of interesting things. There's some things that some transitional things and prototypes that were really quite interesting, and it has really good photos. But there's a few things I just think could have been refined a bit more, and I think it would have been even better. And obviously there's a few spelling mistakes and little things like that, and that's going to happen in these a lot. When there's not as much text, it really does kind of stand out. But I guess that maybe that's just me, and obviously it doesn't affect the actual information. Like it says there was a czarist degree instead of a czarist decree in regards to epistle at one point, and little things like that. But I mean, the information for the medium of a book is great. Obviously, there's the videos on a lot of these same firearms, and the videos can go into more detail, and you can see how things interact, how things come together and take apart, that you just don't get in the medium of a book. But for a book, it's quite good. It is substantial. It obviously doesn't cover every little thing. There's a lot of things that's just either one-offs or things like that. And I'm sure for the upcoming German firearms, captured firearms, I mean, they can't go over absolutely everything, or it would be a monstrous book. But I mean, it does what it sets out to accomplish. I mean, like the Parson gun thing, this is pretty cool. I really liked that. The SVT-40 Bull, made by Parsons, a one-off example. There's lots of cool things in this book that, you don't know, and or can't find online necessarily as easily. And one of my criteria for is a book worth it when it comes to firearms reference is how easy is it to get this information on your own online in comparison. Because when you look at proper reference books, it's basically impossible or unverifiable to get all the information you get in a good reference book online. No, you can trust that information, and it's not just a forum post or a guy saying something. And obviously this isn't to that level. You get some production figures, you get information of how things changed and evolved that you probably wouldn't know on first glance, or maybe you don't know even if you have, Mosins or TT-33s or Nagant revolvers and things like that. But it also does have a lot of good information. It has examples of different markings and everything. So I don't know. It's one of those things where seeing the pictures, seeing kind of the scope of information, if you think you'll like it, you'll like it. It's definitely well done. But if you're like, I don't know, that's $100 for a book, and it doesn't go into that much detail, then you probably should just skip it and wait for one of the, more reference type books if that's what you're after. You can get cheaper coffee table type books, but the photos aren't going to be as good. I mean, these photos are probably the best firearms photos, the guy who does their photos, I've seen in any of the firearms books I have, reference books. I still don't know if I'm going to go back at the United States one or not. I am pleased with the purchase personally, though I still do think it is steep for the price. You do see the price you paid in the book itself. Like I said, it's very high quality as far as the actual physical thing. So I get it, and it's fun. It's good to support, creators you like because you want further creations. So that's probably part of the driving force for people purchasing these as well. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are if you've gotten your copies yet. I didn't get it signed, so that's probably one of the reasons I got mine quicker than some people. Let me know how the United States version is, if you've picked that up, in the comments below. And if you've made it to the end of the video, please consider supporting my channel, joining the Patreon, liking the video, sharing it with others, subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.